especially with more like newer projects and say channels that we only just started this year, it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out how to best report and what we actually need to, what kind of leading metrics we actually need to understand why we're getting certain results or not.
Okay, so first I'd love to start with getting an idea of your day-to-day life. So when you first log on in the morning, what does a typical day look like for you from start to finish?
Wow, that's a hard question. I don't think there is such thing as a typical day for me, and much as I tried to introduce some kind of level of consistency and routines with a growing team, and a lot of unprecedented problems is not entirely possible. So it really depends. I would say there is more of a weekly cadence to what I do. So we start the week from a marketing stand-up, which basically involves everyone that is working in marketing with the heads of the functions in marketing, presenting what their, sub-departments, so to say, what their team is working on in the current week, any kind of results from the previous week, and also if they need any help, I'm trying to, make sure that they actually know that other people in the team can help them, because especially working remotely, we can get a bit siloed sometimes, and I see it from time to time that people are asking questions which I thought they knew, like someone else has already done or handles it. And after that, we go on to basically do our own lists. I try to keep my hand in pretty much all the functions. I believe that in order to stay relevant and to understand what the teams are working on and what challenges they are facing, you need to sort of do a bit of the groundwork yourself. So I tend to, edit some articles. I tend to, help with the outbound ABM campaigns and sequences, and look over the ad designs or write a video script for a new ad. So it really, really varies. And then towards the end of the month, there's obviously the reporting part and looking at all the numbers, comparing them to the previous numbers, also collecting the reports from each function and get kind of a more nitty-gritty, in-depth view of what is happening across the board. And I feel like we're constantly trying to refine it and make it all more transparent and more usable. We're also scaling. We feel like we need to scale more. So it's kind of a different day in life, every day in life.
Sounds very busy. So I'd love to hear what kind of tools you rely on. So you mentioned communicating regularly with your team. What do you use for that? Project management side, and also you mentioned reporting as well. What tools do you rely on to help you out with that?
Yeah, so for communication, surprise, surprise, Slack. Very boring. For reporting and kind of overall team management, we made this like massive operation last year to move all the teams to Notion. We were previously kind of using a combination of Notion and Asana and spreadsheets, and it's all become very messy because, hashtag digital clutter is a thing. Our former head of content was very much into Notion and creating sophisticated, intricate databases there that are like interconnected. So we basically created like an internal reporting tool. So every function in marketing and the whole marketing team, they have their own dashboard, and the dashboards basically consist of a recap of all the like KPIs and OKRs that the team has that live in a centralized database that is displayed on the main marketing dashboard and then filtered by specific functions, as well as some working databases for the specific team. which vary, of course, because it's not possible to kind of have the same format for ads, demand gen, and content, because the deliverables are different and the metrics are different. So yeah, we have kind of an overarching view, which is sort of managing the team by numbers, but also then breaking it all down by the specific leading metrics for each team and the projects that are then producing the leading metrics.
That's amazing. So you've moved over to Notion because it lets you have that kind of flexibility and kind of bring all the tools into one?
We already were on Notion, really, but we didn't use the databases. We were more like creating SOPs there, and that can become equally messy. Now we're trying to use databases because it gives us more sort of flexibility and allows us to quickly kind of copy and paste a dashboard. For instance, we're recording all the resources that we're creating. So all the SOPs, all the meeting recordings, essentially everything, all the instructions, tool instructions are recorded in the resources database, and then we tag them by a specific team and specific type of resource. So is it a presentation? Is it a template? Is it media? It's a lot easier to filter and actually find the right information. That also allowed us to share some collateral with the sales team and actually make sure they use it. It's not that easy. So yeah, it was kind of an effort to organize Marie Kondo our operation rather than change it substantially. I definitely feel more confident in leading the team with this kind of nitty-gritty level of oversight. But as I said, we're constantly working on it, especially with more like newer projects and say channels that we only just started this year. It takes a lot of trial and error to figure out how to best report and what we actually need to, what kind of leading metrics we actually need to understand why we're getting certain results or not. So yeah.
I'm really glad you went into detail because that's something I'm currently working on right now, is transitioning everything into Notion and making our reporting a little better. So I'm definitely going to listen back and grab some tips. So thank you for that. Moving on, I would love to dive deeper into the last quarter and what marketing campaigns you prioritize. So maybe list the top 3 campaigns that you were working on with your team and why you chose to focus on those ones specifically.
So I don't think we work kind of in this way, that we have specific campaigns that we are prioritizing on quarterly basis. It's more like there is a stable operation, so core campaigns that are running all the time, and then there are some experiments that we may be running. So we have a pretty kind of established marketing team with a lot of different functions and several different channels by now. So we have the paid function, which covers the ads, and these contain like core basically demand capture strategies, which are mostly called search ads on Google Ads and more recently Bing Ads. And then there is a separate budget for experiments. So we may experiment with like dynamic search ads, for instance, or video 360 ads. And that's kind of based more quarter by quarter. We have the demand gen function, which runs webinars regularly. Every 2 weeks, we have webinars. We have the product marketing function, which essentially takes care of the product launches, competitive analysis, creating all the collateral for the sales team. We have, as you probably know, a big and fairly busy content team. So we're producing around 140 blog articles per month currently. We have 5 full-time editors in-house, plus a proofreader, plus around 10 content writers that are working as freelancers with us. So, that team has its own core projects, and that are like net new content, targeting new keywords, content updates and rewrites targeting existing content that may have started decaying, as well as programmatic SEO content, so mostly targeting these scalable bottom of the funnel keywords. But recently also attacking top of the funnel keywords. And yeah, like that is an ongoing project. We have kind of a fixed quota and a budget for the year that we're too often, because you wouldn't manage your resource management, right? You need to know how much workload the full-time team members are going to have, and based on kind of their historical conversion rates, essentially modeling the financial forecasting. So, with the traffic growth rate that we have and the percentage of leads and the conversion from lead to closed won, what can we expect over time, say from content, and then similarly from other channels. So these core strategies don't change, and we don't really run the department in like a campaign style. We do have a few campaigns that are seasonal, but they are also something that repeats in the yearly cycle. So we have a industry benchmarks report that, by the way, will be coming out very soon. And we do have conference, an annual conference, product drive. So these are like the two kind of seasonal projects that we are running, but they are also, I would say, planned on an annual basis. So everything is very boring, very much planned. We kind of know pretty much a year in advance what we're going to be working on. But is it then boring? We always, you always come up with new ideas as you go. So, you realize, for instance, that like the quality of your visuals in the ads are not good enough for social media. So you need to look for another resource that would create better quality videos, for example. Or you want to experiment with a particular new ad format, like the ad formats are also changing. So you definitely need to, in your budgeting and your like yearly planning, you need to account for that and have like a margin or error, or downright an experiment budget that is going to be just kiss the money goodbye and not expect any results from it.
That's amazing. I have a lot of follow-up questions, mostly around your content operations, because I'm a huge fan of how you run your content operations. I follow you on Patreon, where you have a lot of great content about the programmatic side of it as well. So my first follow-up question is, you mentioned that you're producing, was it 120 or 140 articles per month?
Yeah, almost 140. Not everything that new, right? So some of them are rewrites and updates.
Yeah. So, well, my first question is, when did you first decide to scale that up? Like, at what point did you go from a lower amount to a higher amount? Was it gradual, or did you realize it was working, so you wanted to scale it up all at once? I just want to know the decision making behind scaling up that content production.
Yeah, it was around a long time ago. It was roughly August 2020. And I even wrote a post on LinkedIn about it today. I was just so burnt out from, working all the different channels and spreading myself. At that point, it was me, myself, and I in the marketing department. And for the first year of Userpilot doing any marketing, that, I wanted to quit because I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I thought that we were spreading ourselves too thinly. I actually was looking for a more experienced VP of marketing as an advisor at this point, because I've never scaled, a company kind of to that level of revenue. So I was looking for some advice, and he mentioned, why don't you just focus on what is already working? And 70% of our leads, now it's a significantly higher number actually, were coming from the blog at that time, to which we were dedicating like very little of our So coming up with these additional tactics like the programmatic SEO, or now we're experimenting with AI. This has all helped us not only catch up, but like overtake and leave our larger competitors far behind in terms of organic SEO visibility. That also translates into higher brand recognition and more conversions from branded paid campaigns, from direct traffic. I would say that has definitely been the most successful operation that we've done so far, and we're keeping it that way, but we continue refining. So now that we nailed this quantitative side, I want to focus on the qualitative side, and I also want to hedge my bets a bit, because I know SGE is going to roll out eventually, and it's going to affect everyone, right? Just by the sheer reduction in the real estate on Google. So with the SGE taking up just physically more space on the first result pages, our viewports are not going to increase, so Google won't be able to cram 10 organic search results into the first page. Plus, if SG caters to most of the purely informational, educational search queries, then what are we left with, right? If people get the answers from then, we have very little control over how the answers are generated. Will the generated answer, even if it's generated using our proprietary content, include our product in the way that we want to present it and in the context that we want to present it? So there are a lot of questions, also a lot of unresolved and copyright issues around it. But I don't want to wake up one day realizing that, our conversions from organic, which are the majority of our conversions, are down by 60%, because SG is answering the questions that people used to find answers to in our blog content itself, which has reduced the clicks on organic searches so substantially that we just don't see the return on investment anymore.
Yeah, that's a really important point to consider, especially when you're producing content at this high level. Have you found any signs yet that it is declining, or is it still either plateaued or rising?
For us, the traffic is still growing, but I would say it's growing at a slower rate than I would have expected based on the volumes we're producing. So we see, while the overall traffic is growing, and it's kind of growing at the target rate that I set this year, I see an over-the-board decline in traffic to pages that have not declined in the SERPs. So, especially after a content update, I look at the data, and initially when I saw a decline, I was worried that, did we get hit by the update? But then the next step was to actually investigate the position of the pages that, we basically have, and especially the highly converting pages. And overall, actually a lot of our pages, improved in terms of the position in the SERP, but it's just that the search volume is declining. So Google is losing its market share in terms of a search engine, and not even to other traditional search engines, but with Gen Z taking up a larger and larger proportion of the workforce, something also to account for is that they use other search engines like TikTok or Instagram or Pinterest that you wouldn't initially think of as a search engine, or YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google. Right? So what do you do with that? You need to somehow prepare for this mindset shift. And one of the ways that we're preparing for it is by investing more in video, because this is the more consumed essentially medium nowadays than text. And even Google itself is pushing video results in the SERPs features. It is responding to this mindset shift with including shorts video shorts from YouTube in the search results. So we need to be on board with that.
I would love to explore more about video, especially because it's a topic that I'm particularly interested in. So I would love to first know what types of videos are you experimenting with? So you mentioned shorts and long form YouTube videos as well. And have you seen any kind of success with a particular format or maybe a particular topic style? For example, like a Q&A based video or something a little more creative or something more educational, like keyword focused? Sure, like any company would experience challenges, whether it's hiring
them by Epic to specific editors that are managing It's like a native speaker editor, and checks the content again for any slips of the pen, and inserts CTA banners, kind of polishes it up against the SEO checklist if there are any polishes required. Rarely so, because so for SEO it gives you a live content score, so the writers have to adhere to a specific content score. In our case, it's like 90 at this point, so it's a very high quality requirement. And yeah, once it's done, it's being published, it's being distributed to our social media channels and the Medium account with a canonical tag, and the cycle kind of begins again. It never stops, right? So yeah.
Thank you for reviewing that process from start to finish, because I can see that system is the reason why you're able to produce at such a high level. So thank you for reviewing that. My final marketing related question before we go on to our closing questions, because we're almost running out of time, I would love to hear how you're using AI to help support your marketing strategies and your marketing team.
I love using ChatGPT as a calculator. So personally, I try to use it a lot to create reports and to analyze data. When it's a good mood, it can be quite useful. When it's in a bad mood, it can be quite useless. So it's sort of hit and miss for me at this point. I've just discovered that with the same prompt, I can get different results on a different day. So I don't know why, based on the input data probably. But yeah, the team overall doesn't use AI nearly as much as one would imagine still, because it's still just not good enough, I feel. So we've experimented with the AI videos, the results were kind of meh. We're now experimenting with AI content. We'll see how that goes. It's been roughly a month. We've been kind of slow to adopt AI in our content strategy, because we sort of were afraid of reducing our quality standards. That AI content still needs to be manually checked and edited. There has been a lot of improvement in the AI tools in the last few months, so now I feel it's more likely we will be using it, but it's still not like it's a part of any regular workflow.
And I would love to know, where do you go for your marketing knowledge, or to hang out with your fellow marketing peers to learn from them, like communities, newsletters, what else? Or groups like Exit 5, for example. I'm in Exit 5. Where do you go?
I've been in a few groups, but honestly, I just hang out on LinkedIn and have a private mastermind with a few other, there's 5 of us, CMOs or former CMOs at SaaS companies. So we meet on a monthly basis and discuss a specific issue that we have, or kind of share our experience with a particular tactic or problems, and we kind of have this hotline on LinkedIn group chat where we're asking each other questions and getting some inspiration from that. So that's that's primarily it. Honestly, I don't have a ton of time to engage in content at this point. Sort of trying to fight in the trenches together with my team to hit our goals for this year.
Amazing. So unfortunately, we're out of time. I had a million follow-up questions, so hopefully we can schedule a second conversation to go over your other marketing programs that you have going on. But for now, my final question for you is, are there any other companies where you're admiring their marketing from afar, and do you think they would make a great guest on this podcast to figure out how they do it?
Only SaaS companies specifically, or
no, any company.
Well, what springs to mind is, and I'm going to be boring again, is Ahrefs. I think they've done extremely well with their both SEO content and video content. So I would probably try to invite those.
Well, fortunately, they're coming up in a few weeks' time,
All
so
right.
I'm glad you said it.
I will be looking forward to it.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Marketing Routines. I really appreciate it. Lots of great tidbits we learned, and hopefully we can have a follow-up conversation, because this feels unfinished for me with all of the nuggets you mentioned. So thank you for joining us for this first episode. Thank you.